Okay, test, test. Ivarechecha Adonai vayishmerecha. Yeir Adonai panev aleha. I think that even when I turn with this mic, I think that it must have been the receiver, because I don't think I'm cutting out at all, even when I... Okay. Oh, okay, well... What we're talking about today, you bet.
Oh, is that what we're talking about today?
Well, I'm talking about ideas. I think that'll work well with
Okay,
it.
good. All right. So good. And then I'm going to talk about the party.
Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Joanna. Welcome home. First, a quick note, especially for those of you who are watching from home. I'm afraid our order of service has last week's information, but we will make sure that we are presenting all of the names and numbers of the hymns this week. And if there's anyone who would like to help with that job, be sure and see me after the service. Unitarian Universalism is unambiguously, unapologetically progressive. This church affirms the inherent worth and dignity of all people through anti-racism, anti-oppression, supporting the LGBTQIA+ community, working for reproductive justice, voting rights, and other issues as needed. We seek to build beloved community, not only here, but in our surrounding area. And we bring a spirit of joy to it all. Now, Live Oak is what is called a teaching congregation. We take pride in being a leadership incubator of lay leaders and seminarians, and we have an impressive list of religious professionals that we have launched into the world. Today, I am pleased to introduce you to our intern minister, Carrie Holly-Hurt. Carrie is a first-generation Texan who hails from West Texas but made it to Austin by way of D.C., Malta, and Bristol, England. She lives with her husband Russell and 2 kids, Phoenix and Alex. In addition to being a parent and thinking deep thoughts in seminary, she has a serious podcast habit, is deeply captivated by interesting but completely pointless facts, her words, and loves corny jokes, especially if they come in the pun form. Boy, are you in the right church for that. She will be with us this next year, and she is excited to meet you all, hear your favorite pun, and give and receive podcast recommendations. The more useless the information, the better. So please make her welcome. Carrie will be making her debut in our pulpit next Sunday. You do not want to miss that. It is so good to be together this morning. Would you please rise, either in body or in spirit, for our opening hymn, Morning is Broken.
Welcome to Live Oak Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Mark A. Anderson, and one thing I love about Live Oak is our great staff. I'd like to welcome any guests we have today. If this is your first time here, please stop by the visitors table just outside these doors in the narthex so that we can meet you and answer any questions you might have. As part of our mission, we want to enhance the connections between each of us and also with the outside world. You can stay connected with everything happening at Live Oak through our weekly email newsletter. There's a link on our homepage. And during this worship service, there's no need to put your phone away. We encourage you to post on social media things you hear today, maybe even an invitation for a friend to join you next week. Today, our chalice at Live Oak is being lit by Ren Goss. And now, here
and at home, let us light our chalices with these words from Walter Royal Jones, Jr. Mindful of truth ever exceeding our knowledge, and community ever exceeding our practice, reverently we covenant together, beginning with ourselves as we are, to share the strength of integrity and the heritage of the Spirit in the unending quest for wisdom and love. This is a congregation bound not by creed but by covenant. May those in agreement affirm this covenant now. We affirm a caring community of and for all ages, seeking wisdom, doing service, and living with integrity. In our diversity, our covenant holds us in unity as we celebrate our shared spiritual journey. It is stewardship season. That's the time when we as a congregation, when we as members, tell the congregation how much money we plan to give in the next calendar year so that our leaders can form the budgets so that they know how much money they're going to have to spend on the programs of this church. Today we invite Barbara Coldiron to come forward to testify about what this church means to her.
So I've been a Unitarian Universalist since I was 13 years old. And I joined Live Oak about 27 years ago when my daughter was 3 years old. And because she wouldn't let go of my leg, I was a religious education teacher. And I did that through third grade. One of the most important times with that was that they did a parenting class called Developing Capable Children. It was Developing Capable People. And it was just wonderful how I could use that knowledge in raising my daughter. When we got to the fourth grade, I was dreading 10 years old, and they brought in a psychologist to help with our fourth grade class. We were struggling with that class, and that was even before I'd gotten into it. And so I just volunteered to teach and learn with this psychologist how to deal with 10-year-olds. And I loved it so much I taught fourth grade for several years and let my daughter go on, matriculate on up above me. And got to the point where I was teaching coming of age, which is our version of the bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, and got so much out of being an RE teacher. When I retired from teaching, I started working in the ministerial committees, and I was on the team that has helped with several intern ministers, and Carrie, welcome, and even on the search committee that found Reverend Joanna. What I have found over the years is that the more I put into the church, the more I get out of it. I put in my time and my treasure, and I grow from it. And now what I'm currently doing is I am in charge of the food at the 30th anniversary party that we are having in 2 weeks on October 1st. It's a Saturday afternoon. And it's going to be a universal meal so that everybody can eat the food and not have to worry about allergens. So hope you can come. Please fill out your pledge form for whatever you can afford. Come and have some fun on the 1st and grow through volunteering. Thank you.
A special part of Unitarian Universalist Sunday services is the time of sharing joys and sorrows. And I think of it as the time when we keep vigil for one another, when we give one another the gift of being present to those among us who have had some special milestone in their personal lives during the previous week, or some particular joy or sorrow that it's important for the congregation to know. And today, Henley shares, my friends are here, so that's a joy. Mike Inyart shares his sorrow. He is remembering his father who passed away on September 4th. Sue Buckley shares that Linda and Wayne McCullough are in the hospital, Wayne with a heart problem, Linda with her recurrent arm infection. Both are improving. I can tell you from having visited them on Friday. For those who don't know, Linda is a retired nurse, and she has the doctors well trained. Once they give Wayne's report, they come to her and give her Wayne's report. Rin Goss shares the joy that her birthday is coming soon. Larry Smith shares that today is his dear daughter's birthday. Happy birthday, Wendy. Our DLFD, Chris Jarman, shares the great joy that LOUU has 2 brand new middle school and high school level trained AL facilitators, Cindy LaGreca and Elizabeth Pax. And I'll be talking a little bit about that later, but just so those of you who aren't familiar with the term, AL stands for Our Whole Lives, which is a comprehensive sexuality education that we do. And Barbara Coldiron shares a sorrow. Past member Jan Neschheim passed away about 2 weeks ago. The memorial service was yesterday at San Gabriel in Georgetown. Often what is heavy on our hearts are our own fears that we have fallen short. We know that we have left undone those things which we ought to have done, and we have done those things which we ought not to have done. May we have the courage to be honest with ourselves, the willingness to make amends, and the compassion to accept forgiveness from others and from ourselves, trusting in the assurance that imperfection is expected and love is the guiding and healing force with which we can align our lives. And would you please sing Sanctuary with me?
Chris Jarman. I am your Director of Lifespan Faith Development, and this is our time for all ages. And I just want to say, Barbara, you are awesome. I couldn't have asked for a better plug for RE, so it's awesome. So this morning, we are going to be hearing a story with the title Anti-Racist Baby. It is written by Ibram Kendi. And you may be familiar with this book because, I don't know, there was a senator, I think from Texas, I think his name is Cruz, and during the Supreme Court Justice nomination hearings for Supreme Court Justice Brown Jackson, he brought up this book as an example of CRT, or critical race theory, and how it would affect her serving us as a Supreme Court Justice. So let's listen to the story. Ready?
What up, y'all? My name is Kendrick Sampson, and I'm going to be reading Anti-Racist Baby. Anti-racist baby is bred, not born. Anti-racist baby is raised to make society transform. Babies are taught to be racist or anti-racist. There's no neutrality. Take these 9 steps to make equity a reality. Number 1, open your eyes to all skin colors. Anti-racist baby learns all the colors, not because race is true. If you claim to be colorblind, you deny what's right in front of you. Number 2, use your words to talk about race. No one will see racism if we only stay silent. If we don't name racism, it won't stop being so violent. Number 3, point at policies as the problem, not the people. Some people get more while others get less because policies don't always grant equal access. Number 4, shout. There's nothing wrong with the people, even though all races are not treated the same. We are all human, anti-racist baby can proclaim. Number 5, celebrate all our differences. You gotta celebrate, you gotta do a little celebration. Anti-racist baby doesn't see certain groups as better or worse. Anti-racist baby loves a world that's truly diverse. Number 6, knock down the stack of cultural blocks. Better knock them down. Anti-racist baby appreciates how groups speak, dance, create as they choose. Anti-racist baby welcomes all groups, voicing their unique views. Number 7, confess when being racist. Nothing disrupts racism more than when we confess the racist ideas that we sometimes express. Number 8, grow to be an anti-racist. Anti-racist baby is always learning, changing, and growing. Anti-racist baby stays curious about people and isn't all-knowing. Number 9, believe we shall overcome racism. Anti-racist baby is filled with the power to transcend, my friend, and doesn't judge a book by its cover, but reads until the end. Now, what are some of the things you can do to be anti-racist? All right, y'all. Peace.
So I wonder, right? It's a beautifully written book. I wonder why some people are challenged by this book, why some people might have a problem with this book. And I wonder, as Unitarian Universalists, what are we called to do to help that conversation? And I know that Reverend Joanna will be speaking about, we talk about Bruno here. So how do we bring this conversation to the greater world? So thank you.
And now, would you please rise in body or in spirit for hymn number 323, Break Not the Circle. In a recent article in The Atlantic, Adam Serwer writes, "The United States is living through the largest wave of state censorship since the Second Red Scare. Beyond the plague of education gag laws restricting the teaching of unpleasant facts, about American history, conservative judges seeking to rewrite constitutional free speech protections to punish the liberal media, and conservative states passing laws against public protest and immunizing from liability those who would run over protesters with their cars. While law enforcement organizations hope to use civil lawsuits to sue demonstrations against police brutality out of existence, conservatives have sought to fire librarians and purge public libraries of books they deem controversial by categorizing them as obscene. As state officials try to punish teachers who provide their students with public information that allows them to access books from libraries in states where it is not forbidden. Not only do abortion bounty laws seek to enforce silence around reproductive health, lest a person discussing the subject prick the ears of some snitch seeking a payday, but the overturning of Roe has coincided with explicit attempts to criminalize speech about abortion."
Something that will light those, something that will light those. Sing of all the incense, sing of all the incense. I'm gonna give all my secret story. This time another perfect love, perfect love. Seven jump, there's seven jump. I'm gonna give all my secrets. Tell me what you want to, tell me what you want to. Something that will light those ears, light those ears. Think of all the incense, think of all the incense. I'm gonna give all my secrets this time. This time, perfect love, athletics and a jumping frog. I'm gonna give all my secrets
So in 1988, I was a teenager and I was dating someone who had very Catholic parents. And not like Stephen Colbert, Joe Biden Catholic. Very conservative Catholic. Now, 1988 was also the year that The Last Temptation of Christ, the movie, came out. Is there anyone here old enough to have been alive in the 1900s that you remember this movie? Yeah, it starred Willem Dafoe playing Jesus, and it's a movie about Jesus being tempted with a vision of being able to live just an ordinary life, get married, have kids, those kind of things. Well, the right-wing Christians kind of lost it. There were protests absolutely worldwide. Campus Crusade for Christ and evangelical pastors groups were absolutely protesting this. I imagine there's some of you that maybe were growing up in one of those conservative families at the time. There were bomb threats, there was actual arson of theaters, and there were death threats against the director and the actors. Why, yes, Christians were threatening to kill the actor playing Jesus. Crucify him, crucify him. There's no irony there. When this movie came out, I was hanging out over at the boyfriend's house, and his mom brought up the movie, and she was just completely appalled that a movie like that could be made. And she said to me, "You should never see things like that. You should never allow ideas like that to get into your head, because once they're in your head, you can't get rid of them." So I was raised Unitarian Universalist. And this was, obviously it affected me so much that I can remember it in very clear detail all these years later. And that I just couldn't comprehend that a grown-up was so afraid of an idea that she felt that the idea had more power than her, that the idea had more agency in her own life than she did to be able to accept or reject any sort of idea. I would like to say that that attitude has lessened. I think we can tell that it has not, and especially around books. Now, there's nothing new in that, this fear of ideas being transmitted through books. The movie, Last Temptation of Christ, was based on a book by the same name, written by the same person who wrote, by the way, Zorba the Greek, Nikos Kazantzakis. And when the book came out in 1955, the Catholic Church banned it, and he was excommunicated by the Greek Orthodox Church.
Best weapons in the world.
Oh, I'll play that one more time.
That one. You want weapons? We're in a library. Books. Best weapons in the world.
Best weapons in the world. I think that right now there are some people that are taking that idea a little bit too literally, because isn't it interesting that some of the same people who don't want there to be any barriers to obtaining actual guns and ammunition are the same ones that want to restrict what people can read? Interesting. And it has been happening all over. Many of the people here, have been fighting this for the last couple of years in our own neighborhood, but it's happening all across the United States. And that is not an interesting coincidence of spontaneous grassroots organizing. That is what is called, we've talked about this before, astroturfing. Astroturfing is the term used when you have a powerful, very well-funded national organization or set of national organizations that can then funnel resources and materials and sound bites down to operatives on the local level. Now, are all of the people who are showing up at school board meetings and library meetings to try and get books pulled, are they all political operatives? No, of course not. But when we look at what is happening with a systems theory lens, it is perhaps inevitable what is happening, normal and expected. Completely wrong, but normal and expected, because right now in our society, we are in the midst of a massive shift of mores, the societal expectations around what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And for many of us, we are so excited at seeing these, at seeing all of the attention on anti-racism and on marriage equality, being able to have accountability, whether it is coming from the Me Too movement or with police officers. Many of us are cheering this on. We are trying to soak up the new knowledge, learn as fast as we can about privilege and white supremacy, and we are saying, to quote Lizzo, well, about time. And others in society are not in the same place. And this is extremely concerning. This fills them with fear. What is it going to mean if my children think in a different way than I and my parents do? And so what happens? They get anxious, and the amygdala starts vibrating. It doesn't literally vibrate, that's like a metaphor. The amygdala is the anxiety part of our brain, and we know that when it gets to work, when it starts driving us, we stop doing our best thinking. And when we stop doing our best thinking, all of us, not just them, all of us, whenever we get stirred up and our anxiety is driving us, then we become very easy to be manipulated, and for our fears to be pressed upon to try to get us to react out of that rather than out of our core values. And so this is happening all across the United States. And often with the astroturfing, groups will often adopt a name that sounds very homespun and that often means the exact opposite of what they are doing. For example, Moms for Liberty, which, by the way, they have a new campaign, I'm sure you're going to be hearing about it, called Moms for Libraries. And what they do is they try to ban books. They resist diversity and inclusion initiatives, and they try to get libraries defunded. So you see how it works. Let's pick a name that means the exact opposite of what we are doing. And it is affecting individual lives. Because of all of the book bans that are happening across the country, there's a Brooklyn library that has taken many of these banned books and made electronic versions available. And a teacher in Oklahoma simply let her students know the URL for how to get those. And she was put on administrative leave. She wound up resigning, and now a state official wants her teaching license to be revoked. In Michigan, and this is just such a tiny sample of these stories, it is happening all the time. There was, Friday night, Saturday night at Round Rock ISD, Thursday, a meeting about who controls what books are there. But in Michigan, it's a small town in Michigan, and a group of conservatives decided to look into their library. When they found that there were some LGBTQ themed books, they spread the word that there were books that would be used to groom children in the library. The town held a vote, and they voted to defund the library, the public library. And of course, this summer, author Salman Rushdie was violently stabbed because of a book that he wrote that dealt with Islam. These are all tied together. And often it is religion that is supporting the efforts to suppress ideas. And we know about this because we, historically, Unitarians and Universalists, have been on the receiving end of those types of suppression. And so it's very important for us as liberal religionists, as religious people, to stand up and to speak out and to speak with a religious voice at saying, that's not okay. See, Unitarianism and Universalism in the early Christian church, those were both ideas about the nature of God, about salvation. Universal salvation was the most popular idea of the day. And then empire got involved with religion. Empire always seeks to control, and both Unitarianism and Universalism were declared heresies. Whenever something is declared a heresy, the way to try to suppress the idea is to get rid of the people who are sharing the idea. Our theological forebears have paid with their lives for the free expression of ideas. Just one example being during the Reformation, Michael Servetus, Unitarian. He was a brilliant man. Like, he discovered the pulmonary circulatory system, and he took that same analytical mind to theology, and the printing press had been invented now, and so he could study the Bible, and he studied it, and he finally came to the conclusion that there was not justification in it for Trinitarianism. He felt like this was an area where the church had really gotten it wrong and needed to correct itself. So he wrote a book called On the Errors of the Trinity. On the orders of John Calvin, Michael Servetus was martyred at the stake, his book bound to his side. They tried to get rid of all of the copies of his book and almost succeeded, but there were 2 copies that managed to escape, and that's twice as many as you need for an idea to survive. And you can still find it today. So for us, this is very personal as Unitarian Universalists. And here at Live Oak, this is important to us because, yes, we talk about Bruno. Ask a kid, they'll explain that reference to you. We talk about CRT, critical race theory. We talk about LGBTQIA+ issues. We talk about BLM, Black Lives Matter. We talk about uncomfortable things because those uncomfortable things are the things that enable us to grow. We talk about all of these different kinds of ideas because that enables us to figure out what are our core values and how can we be most effective out into the world, making it a better place. Now, these attacks are coming fast and furious. And everything is all tied together. It is attacks on books, it's attacks on movies, it's attacks on curriculums, and as we saw with the Supreme Court ruling this summer, it is attacks on our own agency over our own bodies. Freedom means something very specific, and that it is something where you can have a freedom even if another person would not do the same thing that you would do, would not read the same things that you read. In this church, we exercise that freedom. We exercise it through our faith development classes. We deal with religious and social ideas that may make us uncomfortable. For us, faith development isn't, and this is for children and adults, faith development is not about memorizing some sort of doctrine or some sort of ideas. It's about struggling. Like if you're doing faith development and you're not wrestling, come and talk to me or come and talk to Chris because we may need to push a little bit harder there. As you heard in our joys and sorrows, we are missing some people this morning because they have been away at training for AL, our comprehensive sexuality education. We have this for children all the way up through the concerns for senior adults, divided up age appropriately. The curriculums are different. Again, it is what fits that age group's developmental needs. But you start young. For our children, to teach them about their bodies and about boundaries and about consent, and to answer honestly the questions that they have. And parents, man, our kids have some hard questions, right? Even when they're really little. To do that empowers them and equips them. It gives them the knowledge so that they will not be taken advantage of in any way. What kind of a decent person would be against that? Whenever things happen, like the Dodds decision this summer overturning Roe v. Wade, the question is always, what do we do? And for many of us, the past 6 years, this has been just the drumbeat of a question, because we are seeing things that we never could have imagined seeing. And the first answer that is always given is vote. And that absolutely is the first step. And voting your vote, first of all, number one, vote completely. Vote all the way down. In the last presidential election in Williamson County, there were 22,000 ballots where people only voted up at the top and not down at the bottom. Find out who are these people that are running for school board, for city council, what are the referendums. The internet has been invented, and so I promise you there is tons of information out here, and right here in this room there's a wealth of experts that you can talk to, not the minister, boundaries around that. But find out and vote all the way down. I heard this thing the other night. Someone said the closer you get to the bottom of the ballot, the closer you are getting to the front door of where decisions are made. So number one, vote completely. But this year, this fall, your one vote, it is vitally important, and it is not enough. We have to get more people voting. You can do it in a partisan way. You can do it in a nonpartisan way. But the thing is, Texas, it's been proven. Look at the numbers. Texas is not a red state. Texas is not a blue state. Texas is a non-voting state. And this year, this November, the stakes are too high. Now, I think that I have been really clear about that we can't just wait and believe that the arc of the universe, is going to bend towards justice, and we don't have to get too involved. We have to bring our weight to bear upon that arc. But let me also give you a little bit of hope. When it comes to attempts to censor, people really don't like that. And it often winds up going the other way. In the case of Last Temptation, all of that brouhaha drove people to the theaters. Opening weekend, Last Temptation of Christ beat Die Hard. A movie about Jesus beat Die Hard. And so now that has become a common strategy. And some of us know that there was a trailer for a new movie that was dropped here just in the last couple of weeks. Anyone want to name it? Little Mermaid, yes. Live action of Little Mermaid, and Ariel is played by a beautiful, gifted black actress, which had so many of us cheering, Parents of little black girls are taking videos of their reaction, and if you can watch those videos and not tear up, come and talk to me, because you clearly need some pastoral care. But you know who else it got stirred up? Whole lot of bigots. But you know what? The movie doesn't come out until next May. I'm pretty sure releasing that trailer now, the way they did, was not an accident. Good marketing. And in regards to those who want to keep kids, and especially teens, away from certain books, have you met any teenagers? Do you remember being a teenager? And especially this set of teenagers right now, Gen Z, my money is never going to be betting on that and keeping them away from anything that they want to get to. And on a personal note, for all of the people who came to Round Rock or Leander ISD school board meetings, reading excerpts of certain books, cherry-picked books that they felt should be banned, thank you, because I got a wonderful list of books to read on my sabbatical, and these are honestly some of the best books that I have read. I invite you now to join me in a time of reflection in word and in silence. Make yourself a little bit more comfortable, kind of center yourself, and if you feel comfortable doing so, close your eyes. Ideas are the tender seeds of our intellectual universe, weaving together both imagination and knowledge. Not all ideas are good. When examined and found without beauty or value, they should be discarded. All ideas should be held loosely, so that we don't become so attached we are unwilling to let them go when they have been proven to be false or harmful. Ideas are often fragile things, like crumbling autumn leaves. Until there is an attempt to crush them, hide them, suppress them, destroy them, then they are prone to thicken, to strengthen. They fight back, ideas, when something threatens their life. Let us be curators of books and knowledge, ideas and philosophies, letting go of those that do not serve us well, holding gently but firmly to those that give us life and meaning. And let us hold that just for a moment together in sacred stillness. Amen, and blessed be.
We are the tradition of the Free Church. Our church and our community outreach are supported not from an outside source, but from within. Generosity, therefore, is one of the spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and our institutional well-being. We share what is offered every week with an organization that upholds our Unitarian Universalist values. This month, we're helping to empower the dream of the Lilith Fund, the oldest abortion fund in Texas. As of last month, they are offering direct financial assistance for non-abortion reproductive health care, including ultrasounds, screenings, contraceptives, counseling, and more. The fund also is assisting Texans who are traveling out of state for care. The group continues to operate its hotline to provide information to callers and continues to build reproductive justice programming in compliance with the law. May an offering be received in gratitude and love.
To faith development today. The children will be going upstairs to room 201, where we will be doing community building games and getting to know each other better. And I invite the adults to spend fellowship time getting to know our new intern, Carrie, and visiting with each other. So we'll see you at fellowship.
And now, please rise as you are willing and able for our closing hymn, number 300, With Heart and Mind. In 1819, when William Ellery Channing named and claimed the word Unitarian, which until then had been used as a slur, but claimed it and said, yes, we are Unitarians, and this is what that means. He used as his reference a line from the Christian scriptures. And y'all have heard me say this before. If you do not memorize any other Bible verse, memorize this one. 1 Thessalonians 5:21. Test everything, hold fast to what is good. It is important for us to send our message of resistance, that we will not comply with encroaching fascism, and to encourage ourselves and our neighbors to vote as if our lives depended on it. Our voting rights team invites you to join us immediately after the service to march outside with us to hang a new and inspirational banner on our building that will do exactly that. May you know joy beyond measure and distribute love extravagantly, ever assured that even on hard days, life is a blessing.
And now Reverend Goss will come forward to extinguish the chalice. Let us say these words to each other. We extinguish this chalice flame, daring to carry forward the vision of this free faith, that freedom, reason, and justice will one day prevail in this nation and across the earth. And now, as we depart, we extend and receive the gift of hospitality by taking the first 5 minutes to talk to someone whom we do not yet know well. May we all know the blessings of friendship and community.